Good afternoon. Thank you, FIGU-Landesgruppe Canada, for having me invited once again. So I'm able here in a room in this library to have a presentation. Once again, my name is Christian Frehner. I'm 67 years old, married, father, grandfather, and I'm a member of the core group since 1987 of FIGU in Switzerland. And I have to start right now with a preliminary remark. Speaking in English is not one of my talents, and therefore I have to follow my script, and this will result in kind of a monologue, of course, but you will see a lot of pictures and small videos, and if I could also have some false pronunciation, that's also possible. If someone should not understand what I'm saying, just say stop and interfere and ask about the clarification. This is the title of my presentation of today here. And to start with, a few introductory explanations are essential for the understanding of the ensuing presentation, which has been announced to you by the title, as you can read here behind me. And I've chosen this topic for two main reasons, actually. I knew that my presentation would be filmed and made available through the internet, and instead of you having to listen to a monologue and continuously looking at me and probably contemplating the size of my beard, I can repeatedly divert your attention away from me and towards the many images and videos you will see here on the screen. And the other reason, that's not quite too much serious reason, the other reason is to relieve you, and me also, from the obligation to go into details if you are requested to explain why the Billy Meier case is true or not true. In the future, you may simply refer any interested or questioning person to view my presentation, that's recorded here, and to let these persons draw their own conclusions. This will give you more free time for your personal evolution. From this, you may deduce that the application of a portion of egoism can be useful and help to preserve one's serenity. It's up to you now to keep our receptivity on a high level. And however, as you already know from my introduction, in case you will sleep during a part of my presentation, don't worry or scold yourself, because you will be able to fill in any gap by later watching the video. Of course, only if you make no mistake, Peter. But now seriously, with regard of the information I will present to you today, I'm aware that there already exist valuable efforts by various persons to this end, and I will refer to some of those visual and literal endeavors. However, what I'm intending to achieve is some kind of an overall survey or summing up. Critical viewers may justifiably, or perhaps also among you, may justifiably ask about why I should be an appropriate and qualified person to defend and judge the authenticity of the Billy Meier case, because the fact that I'm a FIGU member for over 35 years obviously determines the final verdict of my presentation right from its beginning. Therefore, I suggest that those who are skeptic about my role just imagine to be the judge and having to listen to my pleading, in which I am delivering ample evidence to support the case. Of course, I see good reasons why I'm qualified to stand here, or rather sit here, in front, where I'm here. That's the problem of reading. Of course, I see good reasons why I'm qualified to stand here in support of this case. I will list 3 of them, of these good reasons. First, I'm an unbeliever. I don't believe in any religion, ideology, philosophy, or hypotheses, or conspiracy theories, etc., and I strive to look at things and occurrences with a neutral stance. And I suggest that all the smartphones are put on airplane modus, I think it's called. Second, even if I don't have a university degree, at least I've learned 3 different professions and earned the corresponding diplomas. I just mention this because I've noticed a substantial amount of intellectual snobbery among many academics who are using their title to presumptuously look down on the ordinary people while unintentionally make a fool of themselves because they avoid to neutrally look at reality outside of their self-restricted professional scope. Such persons don't want to accept the fact that the application of logic and the use of rationality and intellect do not require a university degree. And third, as a core group, a FIGU core group member since, I said, 1987, I have to spend several days each month at the Semjase Silver Star Center, and therefore I had and continue to have the opportunity to closely observe and monitor Billy Meier's words, deeds and actions over a long time. Therefore, I can assure you that I would have left FIGU already a long time ago if I would have witnessed manipulation attempts or cheating or suppression, etc. from Billy's side. Now, after this or that clarification, let's continue to deal with other important preconditions. Since the title of my presentation uses the words here true and not true or untrue, it is necessary to start with the definition of the terms truth and untruth. A look into Wikipedia provides this here. As you can read, truth is most often used to mean being in accord with fact or reality or fidelity to an original or standard. In his book, Decalogue, Billy Meier defines truth as follows. In German it's like this here. Die effektive Übereinstimmung des Wissens mit der Logik, die da ist die Schöpfungskraft und das Absolutum aller Folgerichtigkeit, and which translate here reads, the effective correlation or concordance of the knowledge with the logic, that which is creation power and the absolutum of all logicalness. This means that truth can only be found where knowledge and also logic exist in combination. And if you look at the definition of knowledge in that book, it reads like this. Wissen ist das Ergebnis absolut logischer Erkenntnisse in Erkennung der Wahrheit. Knowledge is the result of absolute logical cognitions in recognition of the truth. The conclusion to be drawn from these two definitions is that truth can only be found in reality, because only reality, that which really exists, like this table here, can bring forth the truth. This is no cow here, it's a table. That's the truth. Based on this, it also clear that terms like belief, opinion, supposition, hypothesis and theory, etc. have no correlation whatsoever with the truth. Perhaps it is helpful to give two examples for a clarification. The first one, based on their study of the Torah and the Bible, Orthodox Jews and fundamentalist Christians are claiming and believing that our universe was created about 6,000 years ago by God in heaven. This God was, according to the holy texts, quite actively interfering into the daily life of the Hebrews and the non-Hebrews of that time with a mixture of outrage, revenge, murder, promises, huffiness, mercilessness and privileging, etc. And he ceased to speak to human beings about 2,000 years ago. It is exactly this God who is believed to be the one who created everything that exists, the whole universe, everything. There is the question, is this true or not true? And how does this belief correspond with logical and sensible questions like, what is God what will God show us with dinosaur fossils and petrified trees? And why did he trouble himself to create a trillion of galaxies, billions of light years away in the vastness of space, when our eyes are not capable to look so far into space? And why did he not present himself in China, for example? Because it can be assumed that even in those days more people lived in China than in Palestine. Now, what is belief? What is reality? And the second example, I use or want to refer to scientists and non-scientists who are claiming that mankind will never know whether human beings exist on other worlds, because human beings will never be capable to bridge the huge distances measured in light years between our solar system and other worlds in a physical life. True or not true? Judge for yourself at the end of my presentation. And now and lastly, there's another important prerequisite I have to explain prior to the main body of my presentation. My intention is to provide information, facts and logical conclusions. According to the saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. I'm certainly not attempting to convince anybody or anyone through my lecture or my symbolic pleading. Any such attempt would be futile from its beginning, because nobody can convince another person regarding anything. And should there occur any form of being convinced, then this has been processed individually by a person, him or herself. It means that a person is suppressing or exchanging his or her own opinion, meaning and supposition, etc., with an external opinion, meaning and supposition, which is foreign to one's own thoughts, etc. And because the convinced person has surrendered to the external opinion, it is just a matter of belief. And the belief is, based on its definition, never in accord with reality and therefore with the truth. I think it's appropriate at this moment to use a quote from Billy Meier's new book, which will be published, I think, before the end of this year. And here we have the text that you can follow my pronunciation. Contrary to conviction or persuasion stands certainty, which originates alone from a given fact and therefore from realness, reality and its truth, which throughout may be proven and have nothing to do with a conviction, but is integrated into an effective knowledge as well as into that which is given by and which is factual through reality and its truth. Certainty is a firm, steadfast knowledge that can be proven through the verification of an issue or through experience and the living of it, and therefore through reality and its truth. And this is, has been now my introduction. And before I come to the main body of my presentations, are any questions so far? Or is all clear what I wanted to say? Looks like here, where I are here. Now imagine that you have entered the court and I, as Billy Meier's defending lawyer, would have to counter the accusation by Billy Meier's antagonists of him being a sly liar and fraudulent guru who enticed gullible persons to become addicted to a cult. I would start my overall survey with a short list of statements about what makes the Billy Meier case unique compared to any other so-called UFO case. Eduard Albert Meier, not Meyer, Meier, was born in 1937 in a town called Bülach, north of Zurich in Switzerland. Here he's about 7 years old, this photo. At the age of 5, he was telepathically contacted by an extraterrestrial man named Svat here. This was a very old man, about 1,000 years old at that time. Being afraid of becoming insane when hearing the voice in his head, the boy Eduard sought counsel from the local Pastor Zimmermann, who had already been initiated by Svat and could relieve the boy's angst. There's a younger age and an older age. The contact with Svat lasted for 11 years and throughout Eduard's entire school years. And then for the next 11 years, Eduard had a female teacher named Asket, originating from the Dahl universe. After having left school, Eduard led a very adventurous and often dangerous life. He worked in many different jobs and professions, and he was more or less constantly on his way by train, bus, hitchhiking, camel or feet or donkey between Switzerland, Morocco, Turkey, Iraq, Israel, Jordan, Afghanistan, Pakistan and India. During his traveling, he met and was able to speak with many famous persons, and here is a small excerpt or list of these. Those who live longer are older age here will know who these peoples were. Because of his clothing, Billy's clothing, here we have a picture of him in India. He still had 2 arms at that time, a broad brimmed hat, pistol, and a knife, a long knife on his belt. He got his nickname Billy in Tehran, in Persia, from an US-American woman named Judy Reed, when she compared him with the famous Billy the Kid of Western fame. From that time on, the nickname Billy stuck on him. After having finished several months of study at the monk Dharmavaras, here's a picture of him, a shock mission in Mehrauli near New Delhi, Eduard, or Billy, lost his left arm in a bus accident in Turkey 1 year later. By the way, Dharmavara later moved to the United States and died at the age of about 110 years. He had a center, meditation center or something like this. Billy lost his left arm in a bus accident in Turkey 1 year later. after this photo that you just have seen. And a couple of months later of that accident, here, he married a Greek girl named Calliope. Calliope there. And their first child, a daughter, was born in Quetta in West Pakistan. Of course, more than 9 months after marriage. At that time, in 1967, and based on his study of Islam, Edward Meier was appointed the Islamic honorary title of Sheikh Mohammed Abdullah. That's the head of this paper, this document, and the document looks like this. This has been in the Ahmani mosque in Turkey. The birth of his daughter and her having health-related problems led to a return to Switzerland and to settle down because he had to earn a regular income for the support of his growing family. In January 1975, Billy was summoned by a female voice in his head to a remote place near Hinwil. There he met the Pleiadian woman Semyase from a planet named Erra in the constellation of the Pleiadian, which is about 500 light years distance away from Earth and beyond the Pleiades that we see on our night sky, in another dimension that is shifted from our a fraction of a second. After having had the occasion to shoot hundreds of photos and several 8mm films of beam ships, as the flying devices or UFOs were called by the extraterrestrial visitors, Billy informed the media about his collection of photos, santé, and films and the connected contacts with extraterrestrials from the Pleiades, as their origin was said to be during the first years. A deliberate decision to lay a false trail in order to later expose all the copycats who surfaced from the esoteric swamp, claiming to be in contact with Pleiadians, unconscious of the fact that the Pleiades we see on our night sky bear no life whatsoever because they are much too young for such. Prior to this, Billy had founded in 1975 FIGU, Free Community Universal, or Free Community of Interest in Spiritual Sciences and Ufological Studies. That's when the Billy Meier case was officially launched, and with it as planned the so-called UFO controversy. Consequently, articles about the Swiss farmer started to appear worldwide. I have here a few examples here in quick. This was one of the first articles in a German magazine. Here another one, or here, that's a tabloid in Switzerland that still exists today. Here you see down here Erich van Däniken, you see here. Yeah, okay, below. So, and this is, there are also, in America also, here you see the Arizona Republic, an excerpt from December 16, 1979. And all these articles that FIGU got hold of were later included in a large book like this size here. A lot of many articles worldwide are available to read through in this large book here. English, Italian, French, all kinds of languages. Of course, there were more articles than these that are in here, but these are the only articles that we got in possession of. Looks like this. Good. As planned, evoking a massive UFO controversy was really successful and had two main effects. On the one hand, the publicity stirred interest for the events and message behind the ufological frontage of the Billy Meier case and let many people finally find a limitless source of knowledge and wisdom. On the other hand, the reactions, especially from and in the ufological circles, provided a pathetic display of incompetence, ignorance, delusion, defamation, profit craving, disinformation, prejudices, outright stupidity, and a lack of character, beside, of course, honest interest. Searching for information about the Billy Meier case in the index of UFO, so-called UFO lexica or books of experts will demonstrate my explanation made just a couple of seconds ago. Instead of seriously researching the Billy Meier case, the huge majority of the self-appointed UFO experts and believers turned out to be incapable to recognize and are still ignoring to see the shining precious pearl among the foul swamp of illusion, delusion, and profit craving. Here you see a part of our library at the Semjase Silver Star Center, and books about UFO, the UFO topic. Here, down here, these are Japanese journals here about UFOs, and here is ufological literature, and here you see all kinds of books here. Contactees, frauds, all kinds of crazy stories, and so-called scientific examinations. And I'm here, yeah. Fortunately, the Billy Meier case was also aroused interest among open-minded persons, which led to an in-depth investigation by a professional research team from the United States. Between 1978 and 1982, several research expeditions to the Semjase Silver Star Center were organized by the world-famous UFO expert, the late Wendell C. Stevens. Here you see him. He died 9 years ago. Here. And Lillian Britt Elders and Thomas Welch of the Arizona-based Intercept team, along with Junichi Aoi here from the Nippon Television, Japanese from Japan. What Billy Meier could offer to the investigation teams was an astonishing body of evidence, absolutely outstanding and incomparable to any other UFO case ever and up until today. The variety, numbers, and quality of his body of evidence makes the Billy Meier case unique and raises it into an entirely different category compared with the whole rest of sightings of unidentified objects. And exactly this fact has been and continues to be an unsurmountable barrier for the thinking capacities of many of those self-designated UFO experts, fake contactees, channelers, or pseudo scientists, scientists, etc., who claim or believe that the evidence cannot be true because of its high quality, among other reasons. And now I will start with the presentation of this huge body of evidence, partitioned into 7 chapters. In 1964, a reporter of the Statesman from Delhi in India interviewed a Swiss man he called Mr. Edward Albert. The newspaper had been informed by local persons because the Swiss had been observed in connection with flying saucers, and an extraterrestrial woman since he had arrived at the Ashoka mission in Merauli. During his interview, the reporter had the occasion of browsing through a photo album containing about 80 photos of flying discs, flying saucers of various types and forms. And these black and white photos of the Swiss man he had taken with an old, for those who don't know how these were, an old folding camera he kept in his backpack. My father also had one of these in my youth. The following day, Mr. Edward Albert was heading back to Switzerland. And here you see a few examples of the photos he had taken at the time and up to the mid-60s. As a side note, I want to tell you an amusing anecdote. Billy told me during his traveling back to Switzerland, an officer in Jordan wanted to look through the photo album and was asking all kinds of peculiar questions. After Billy had been evasive in his answers, the photo album was confiscated by the Jordanian Secret Service, and Billy was accused as being a spy from Mars. After several hours of interrogation, Billy was released when he requested a telephone call with the Swiss embassy. Luckily, these photos here I've just displayed had not yet been inserted into the photo album and were stored at the friend's house, and therefore they survived. Regarding these events, I don't want to go into more details because the existence of that article from 1964 is a jackpot argument in favor of the Billy Meier case. I will just refer to an excellent article written last year in January by Joe Tisk. You will find it here on Michael Horn's blog. Joe Tisk had analyzed the Statesman article by applying the three aspects: means, motive, opportunity. Applied this on the article, as these aspects are also used in criminal law to determine whether or not someone could be guilty of a crime, or in Billy's case, a hoax. Joe Tisk, that's the name how it's written. Absolutely logical reasoning provides a firm and strong foundation for everything else that I will present to you. As I told you before, Billy Meier started to take his hundreds of clear photos in January 1975. I will soon show you two astonishing examples. However, prior to that, I want to lead your attention to the following 7 facts which should be considered when viewing Billy's photos. First, Billy Meier has just one arm. He did these hundreds of photos with one hand, his right hand. Second, Billy Meier used this simple Olympus camera which he had bought from his brother. The distance ring here is stuck in the infinity position. Therefore, he could not adjust the focus of the camera to objects nearby. In other words, objects right in front of the camera must appear somewhat blurred. Fourth, usually Billy Meier used positive film material, and when full, he had to send the film roll to a Kodak laboratory, and in return he received slides. And here usually there was the date when the processing occurred. For his 8mm footage, Billy Meier used sealed film cassettes. These also had to be sent to laboratory and were delivered back in the form of film reels like these here. Sixth, when Billy was summoned by his extraterrestrial friends to go to a photo session, he usually was using his moped, I think it's called, moped, and a small bike trailer here, with which he transported his photo and 8mm camera and the tripod. And with that vehicle, he certainly was not able to transport a several meter long pole with a fishing line or a helicopter to fake his photos. And seventh, there was never found any laboratory material and devices, as for instance a dark room, anywhere in the rooms of the Simjase Silver Star Center. And something other that is really important, the capability to use digital manipulation started around the year 1985, as you may see here. In this magazine of July 1985. This title photo here was assembled by using a $1 million plus machine. Here at Pacific Lithographic in San Francisco, 3 years after Billy Meier had stopped taking any further photos from the beam ships, and especially also of the so-called wedding cake UFO. And here you see some other pictures from this article here. This is the model they were using. This was really the starting of digitalizing photos in 1985. There's an article about this. Huh? And it's also important to know is that Photoshop, the software where you can work with photos and falsify and improving everything, was first published in 1988. That's 6 years later, as when Billy had stopped to photograph the beam ships. Billy could not have any of these software programs or even the hardware of over $1 million to fake his photos. I don't want to go more into details here, because you will find a summarizing information about these technical aspects in a very interesting video by Harald Schossmann from the FIGU study group in Austria. Just search for this title here. It's in English also available, and it's very recommended to view. It's very well made. Since the publication of the book Photo Inventarium, FIGU has stopped to sell the small photographs we used to sell. From these slides we made photographs and sold them for interested persons. We have stopped to do this, and because we have, you see this book, for those who don't know the book, the Photo Inventarium, where more or less most of the available photos about all kinds of interesting facts about the Billy Meier case. We have published or are publishing it in this book, which is available since a couple of years. So, good. And now, for all those of you who had not the chance to browse through these pages here of this book, or who are not yet familiar with the hundreds of beam ships photos Billy Meier had taken between 1975 and 1982, I will display 2 series here on the screen as an example for the extraordinary quality of the photographic evidence. I will start here with a photo series taken as Hassenbühl, it's called. And the Hassenbühl, it means this location up here on the hill. And you have to imagine that here, once in 1976 here, there was also a tree here that you will see in the photos, and Billy was taking the photos from this side. And I have been up there with Billy about 15 or so years ago. I went up there, made some footage and compared his pictures with the surroundings. And when we were up there, standing here below, just on the back side here, there are several houses, and we were also already, people were looking up, and it's not a very intelligent position up here, exposed to fake UFO pictures with a pole with one hand and with the same hand making photographs. That's Hassenbühl. And you also have to take into account here that the photos that you right now will see have been shot within 70 minutes, all after another, and at the same time he could also shoot some 8mm footage. Okay. This is something else here. Wrong order. Good, here we have the... I think that's the video. Okay, I show first the video. You see here the twigs, strong breeze has blown here.
When I left the place there, I was crouching outside the visa.
We are looking into to the east. And here down, I was standing making this photo here. Huh? And these are the photos. The tree here isn't here anymore. It wasn't there anymore when I went up with Billy. But here you see the blurred twigs right in front of the camera. Here you see the movie, 8mm camera. And Semyazi was flying here and there and posed for him to he just had to trigger make the photo. Two trees, there were two trees, not just one. Okay. And regarding the footage that was taken at the same location, I have to say, regarding this footage, you have to take into account that the material I'm using here for this footage is a great-great-grandfather version of the original footage, because the original film material was handed over to an Austrian television team, as reported here in Wendell Stevens' UFO Contact from the Pleiades report. And after continuous attempts to get the material back, Billy only got a copy of his original footage. And this copy, or probably a copy of a copy, was projected on screen in Billy's living room. There was the Japanese director Junichi was there, and they commented what they have seen through on the projector. Then the videotaped film was transformed from the NTSC into PAL format and later digitized from a copied VHS cassette onto a DVD and then extracted by me to be presented in the form as you will see right now, or that you have already seen. I just repeat this here. This quality, and what you hear is Junichi Yaoi in the background and Billy. This is just an excerpt from a longer film, just for demonstration.
It's always very cold there during summertime.
But you have seen, you could see the ship is not like going like this, but it's also moving like this. And now to the second example of an even longer series, taken about 3 weeks earlier on the 8th of March 1975 in the region of Bachtelhörnli near Hinwil. In some of the photos you will see the tripod Billy was using to attach his 8mm camera. And if you look at the clouds viewed from different perspectives, you will notice that the photos were really taken on the same day and during several hours between late morning and early evening. Here he used two rolls of film. Blurred tricks here right in front of the camera. Tripod is here, you see this. If his camera would have had full function, he could have made photos from very near the camera. He would have to adjust the ring, but he couldn't. He could only make photos to be sharp in the distance. And here also I have some footage to show you. It's also an excerpt, and if you look close at there are 3 ships hovering at the one to the left, then you will notice that it is moving, making footage here. It's wobbling here, you see.
Where he was climbing up the rope. What is the mountain? The mountain where he was climbing up today by the car. What month?
you could see more the movements. And in 1982, Billy was able to videotape some footage of the so-called Tortenschiff, we are calling it in German or within our group, due to its peculiar form here. This here, or wedding cake UFO, as it is called in the English translation, or by English-speaking persons. Here you see this wedding cake ship or UFO right in front of the center, the main building here. And this video here, you see already, perhaps you already know this video. You see Billy walking in front of the camera, shooting photos of the remote-controlled ship about 100 meters away, and this ship there in the background was at about 3.5 meters diameter, about from here to here. I think that's enough. The shape of this so-called wedding cake UFO has provoked some astonishment and amusement, and even led to accusations of being faked model made of the top of a barrel. I don't want to go into details here because any such kind of libel can be easily refuted by referring to the book, this book here, Researching a Real UFO, by the authors Raoul Zahi and Christopher Locke. And it's a pleasure for me. Raoul Zahi is here, and actually his real name is Francisco Vilate. And now everything is clear, huh? And you are working on a second book at the moment, yeah. And everyone who is reading this book here, with a practical guide to the wedding cake UFO experimentation for young scientists, this book provides the irrefutable proof that a 7-meter object has really been hovering in the court in front of Billy's home. Anyone with a grade 6 school knowledge is capable to duplicate the experiments, and by applying and considering geometry and optical laws, etc., will come to the same conclusive results. By the way, in this book, you find download links to the analyzed photos in high resolution. I will close this first chapter with the note that actually the Billy Meier case is no UFO case, but a IFO case, because 99% of the flying objects in his photos have been identified and have been proven to be of extraterrestrial origin. Chapter 2, further strong evidence concerning Billy's claims to be in contact with extraterrestrial has been provided by the sound recording and the metal specimen. The sound of the beam ship, of which I will play a sample to you, was recorded by Billy's ex-wife Calliope, because his own, as well as a third simultaneously occurring tape recording, were overmodulated because of the loudness of the sound and therefore could not be used. Probably most of you already heard this sound here. I think that's enough here. And the metal sample Billy had received on the Pleiaren to be analyzed in the United States was a silvery shining metallic alloy used for the production process of the beam ships. The metal alloy was brought to the United States by Wendell C. Stevens and was analyzed by the late Marcel Vogel, a research scientist working for nearly 30 years for IBM. He held at least 32 patents, among them the magnetic coating for hard disk drive systems still in use. He was able to detect the fact that the alloy had been produced by a cold fusion process.
And at this moment, I must categorize it as a mystery.
I see. And what is your result of
of this year?
Of this material?
Right now,
yes.
I could not explain the type of material that I have and its discreteness by any known combination of materials. I could not put it together myself as a scientist. To get a combination of chromium, silver, and silicon in discrete areas. Yes, if I were to melt it together, I would see the evidence of all of it. But their discreteness is what intrigues me. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because you see, if I were to take these combinations and put it into a furnace, melt it, then pour it out and pull a little ingot, I would see all of these elements present there in any one area. But I don't. I see this discrete bits of material. Now, it can only happen by some form of a cold fusion process where you have the elements present and you fuse them together so they still maintain their identity, but they interpenetrate into one another.
So in other words, do you think there is a possibility to find naturally on this earth, we can
like
find?
I'm going to look. I'm intrigued now. This is the type of thing I enjoy doing and dealing with, but it's also a challenge because I showed it to one of my friends who was a metallurgist, and he shook his head. He said, I don't see how it can be put together. And that's the way we are right now. And I think it's important that those of us who are in the scientific world sit down and do some serious study on these things instead of putting it off as figments of people's imagination. I respect Mr. Stevens and the people I have met. I respect their integrity. I'm doing this with no attempt, no desire for any form of remuneration. I want to know, I want to see. And that's the only reason that I'm digging into it. But if it's to be a business or as part of a corporation, I'm doing this independent of IBM.
So in other words, could I say this material is extraterrestrial?
It doesn't look like anything that we've made here. At this moment, I would feel very much inclined to accept what was given to me as being true.
After the analysis, the specimen vanished and could not be found anymore. Of course, the Pleiaren had fetched the specimen back to avoid that it would be used by the military or other interested parties. The experts who performed or commented the analysis came to the conclusion that both the sound and the metal sample could not be duplicated by any method known at that time, and especially not by a single person lacking the necessary capabilities and funds. Everyone interested can read the detailed reports in the following sources in English: Gary Kinder's book Light Years, Wendell Stevens' investigation reports, or on these 4 videos here, Contact, or Beamship the movie footage, the Meier Chronicles, and Beamship the metal. Now on to chapter 3. For the sake of completeness, I will mention 2 other types of evidence. Firstly, the various landing tracks of various types of beam ships. Here, burning, heat emitting, all these traces here. They were imprinted on the ground for demonstration purposes. The beam ships don't land usually. They were deliberately landing so Billy could have something to make photos of. Additionally, and upon Billy's request, he was teleported down from a beam ship into the middle of a snow-covered meadow, which resulted in a line of footsteps that led out of the field, but none that went into the field. Here you see here he jumped down from the ship into the meadow and then went out to the road over there. It was wet snow here, you could have detected two steps in one place. On another two occasions, Billy was allowed to use a borrowed antique laser gun with which he burned a hole through an apple tree on the FIGU property. This has been recorded without sound. And now he goes to the position where he shot up here to this apple tree. Everybody who has been at the center already once, here is the pond here. And here's the sitting patio, sitting place. And this is basically he had to use an ancient laser gun because the new ones can only be used by the owner, when no one else. And this was possible with a very old laser gun. And here you see the tree is going up. And the photo filming was done by an extraterrestrial. She was using or zooming. He's showing here from this side he shot to the tree, and the beam came out on the back side. Yeah, from here. You see the hole through the tree. Yeah.
Okay.
Later, 1998, when Jaime Maussan and Michael Hesemann were there to make filming and interviewing Billy, this video was shot here, a short excerpt. The tree now has died in the meantime. At another location, he could burn a mark into a tree spark and could also cut two small branches through burning. I think I have this here. You see here the apple tree, the fresh marks here, the burning marks here, and here he has shot two twigs. I have another here. Here you see it burned. It's difficult to burn two twigs at the same time like this. And here you see marks on tree barks, the bark of trees, where he had experimented with his laser gun. Chapter 4. Due to occurrences that lead back into very ancient times and based on the profound instructions and teaching of the extraterrestrials' thought, and also by Asket, Billy Meier had the occasion to learn an exceptional amount and variety of knowledge, as well as capabilities and abilities which far exceed any such of other terrestrial human beings. Additionally, he was able to learn and acquire the so-called Geisteslehre, translated into English, read as spiritual teaching. And it is this spiritual teaching, a very ancient teaching based entirely on reality and without any iota of belief, that Billy Meier has to teach and spread among the terrestrial population. But more about this in chapter 7. In repetition, during his long During his lifelong, extraordinarily hard training and education, Billy Meier was able and became capable to use and apply astonishing consciousness-based abilities. By and over the years, quite a number of persons were lucky to witness a few demonstrations of these, Billy's phenomenal abilities. In most cases, these demonstrations occurred as a surprise and without any announcement from Billy's side. Many examples are included in the Zeugenbuch. Zeugenbuch, here's the title, translated Witness Book. Witness Book, the book of witness reports, which is available in German only. Besides the many reports of day and night sightings of the various beamships, that book also contains several reports by group members who themselves had the rare chance to see several of the extraterrestrials with their own eyes. Billy's ex-wife, for example, had a short, surprising encounter in her living room with Ptah. And since the publication of that book here, a few members more had the chance to witness the presence of some of Billy's extraterrestrial visitors, and these reports, of course, are not in this book. I will finish this chapter with two examples of Billy's extraordinary abilities or capabilities. The first one had happened near midnight, imagine near midnight, dark, of the 21st of September 1978. The demonstration, based on a bet between a core group member and Billy for a sum of 1 million Swiss francs. Well, Billy won the bet, of course, but he's still waiting for the sum to be paid to him. And this core group member is no core group member anymore. He succeeded to hit with one shot from his SIG pistol a postage stamp glued onto a piece of paper that was fastened to a wooden pole 206 meters away. Usually you shoot in competitions, they shoot 10 meters, 30 meters in Olympic Games. 206 meters, night, dark. And before he's shot, here you see the paper, of the original paper here, you see, and here was the stamp in the middle, and with this pistol, he shot. Before his shot, Billy asked if the shot would also count if he would be hit just near the edging of the postage stamp. And this was accepted. Remember, it was dark there at Chladek. This was at Chladek, quite a famous place for beamships photos, nearly midnight. The only light source was a flashlight that was directed from Billy's position. Billy was laying down there on the ground. Someone had a flashlight, and the flashlights in those days were not as good as today, of course. And the flashlight that was directed from Billy's position along the gravel road down towards the target. 206 meters with a pistol, and there were 4 witnesses present. They have the signatures are here, and here you see the result from a close-up. Just as he had asked, he hit the stamp here on the edge. The other occurrence was a funny story by one of 3 witnesses who had sat on a trailer, like this, a Kubota tractor. And with a trailer, they were on their way from Schmidrütti down to the valley to a nursery garden in order to purchase some trees and bushes for the Semjase Silver Star Center. Billy was sitting on the tractor. These were removed here, the sides. Steering it and singing loudly. They were in good spirits. And after some time, the 3 men who were sitting on the trailer, without this cover here, noticed that while driving, Billy had his right arm stretched upwards to the roof and holding its edge Upon watching more closely, they noticed that the steering wheel was turning to the left and right as if steered by an invisible hand. Of course, there was just one possible solution to the mystery: the application of consciousness-based power. Anyone who is the false opinion that such is not possible, I refer to the impressive and astonishing exercises performed by, for instance, Shaolin monks or other individuals who also to everyday demonstrations by a vast number of human beings who are applying their thought power, usually entirely unconsciously, namely by performing a placebo or nocebo effect. This is also something that is evoked and affected by just by thinking. And the might of thoughts, that book explains how this is working. Anyone who is interested to learn more about all kinds of similar and strange experiences in connection with Billy Meier will find astonishing reports in the book I've mentioned, and of course also in the so-called contact reports. And this leads us to chapter 5, contact reports. There is nothing on earth which could be compared with this enormous body of information and knowledge about all aspects of life and science. For example, about space and time, preservation of health, spiritual teaching, historical information, the mismanagement of wrongdoings and wrongdoings in politics, economy, religion generally in society, and also about overpopulation and its devastating effects upon all aspects of life. These contact reports also contain a huge amount of detailed and very valuable information to improve one's health, to avoid all kinds of dangerous ingredients and products and so forth, which severely threaten everybody's health. In my opinion, starting with block 1 and reading through the already available 7,500 pages is an optimal introduction to the Billy Meier case. For those of you who are searching for English translations of these contact reports, here you have the cover of the first one, we'll find here search English translation of we'll find such on the Future of Mankind website in England. A translation project is going on, and continuously new translations are posted on that website. Hopefully then sometime in the future the English book version of this contact will be available as a book, yes. The verbatim reproduction of the conversations presents a profound insight into the various modes of thinking and personalities of both Billy and his extraterrestrial visitors. Besides, the contact reports also display a lot of information about unpleasant behavior by group members. This person here included. I was also scolded by PTA, at least in one instance, and I learned something of it. Something which is absolutely unlikely to be found published elsewhere and in any UFO case or esoteric group, etc. And this really represents a strong indication for the fact that FIGU is no cult. As of today, 15 books with the title Pleiadische Kontaktberichte, each of them containing at least 500 pages, are providing a incomparable insight into the Billy Meier case. And here I have a little statistic, an updated one. You see from January 28, 1975 to August, the last month, Billy had 1,944 personal, face-to-face, and 1,399 telepathic contacts with members of the Pleiadian Federation. And of these many contact, conversations, meetings, 722 contact reports exist. As of this August here, there's another statistics. These are the persons, 61 men and women from other worlds who have visited Billy Meier to this day. All of them, except Sfat here, are still alive. After I had posted my video about the correct pronunciation of extraterrestrial names on YouTube last year, I was informed I had not read and mentioned all names of Billy's visitors. Therefore, I will use the occasion now to complete my project and to pronounce the rest of the names. I had stopped here with Uganda, and then here's the rest. And this Takarana, the first appeared in August of this year. Yanarara, Laricha, Kworga, Bermundas, Berzalia, Esenta, Etika, Kolkos, Laban, Sarold, Heriald, Quinto, Takarana. These are the names. So I have fulfilled my job of last year. I'm closing this chapter with an example of the great amount of valuable information contained in the contact reports. This information I found in a recent contact report that is not yet published. And I think I'm allowed to publish it because it may be useful if you are planning a new house. Based on a question by Billy, Pta said that the magnetic radiation of the hot cooking areas on induction stoves is detrimental to the human being's health and leads to severe health impairment culminating in leukemia. That's blood cancer, leukemia. So you should prefer electric hot plates and not buy induction stoves as they are promoted nowadays. This widely discussed important aspect of the Billy Meier case has led and continues to lead to a lot of critique. There are people who fundamentally deny the possibility to foresee the future, and if a proposed event in the future is really occurring, they are speaking of a lucky guess. And there are those who deny that Billy Meier would be capable to make true prophecies and predictions, all the while themselves believing in the content of the Bible, the Old Testament, where a lot of prophecies can be found, among many. This one here in Isaiah, here. By the way, this is just one of the many inconsistencies and illogical claims to be found in the Bible and the New Testament. If you should find a person called Emmanuel in the New Testament, let me know. Actually, the true version of that prophecy reads like this and can be found in the Talmud Emmanuel. Therefore, the Ishvish, that's the leader at that time, the one with the highest knowledge at that time, himself will give you a sign. Behold, a young woman is impregnated by a celestial son and will bear a son whom they will call Emmanuel. And this celestial son, this was Gabriel from the Pleiadian. This information may be found in the book Talmud Emmanuel, which contains the true story of the life and teaching of Emmanuel, who was born 2,000 years ago, and whose identity and teaching was later falsified into the delusional New Testament and the falsified figure, Jesus Christ. The original writer of the Talmud Emmanuel was Judas Iscariot, while the traitor with the name Judas Iscariot was the son of the Pharisee Simeon Iscariot. And here you see a picture of Judas Iscariot drawn by Pta, sketched by Pta, and the right side Emmanuel, sketched by Semyase. In his book Celestial Teachings, published in 1991, the late James Deardorff compared the Gospels of Matthew and Mark with the Talmud Immanuel, and the result of his in-depth study revealed that the Talmud Immanuel solved all the many inconsistencies and divergences existing in the Gospels. But returning to the topic of prophecies and predictions, these are used to warn the people of coming events, and as a rule, they focus on negative prospects. And both prophecies and predictions are based on the universal basic law of cause and effect. While a prophecy may be altered, for example, by correcting and diverting a false development or false behavior and thinking attitude into a positive direction, a prediction cannot be averted or avoided because a predicted event or occurrence will happen in the future with 100% certainty. But at least there remains the chance of preparing oneself for the coming events and to initiate sensible measures. Several of Billy Meier's books contain prophecies, predictions, and probability calculations, either made by Billy himself or by extraterrestrial authors of today or from ancient times. Many of those foreseen events and scientifically discoveries, etc., have already become a reality, usually fulfilled in their entirety or to a high degree, and only a few prophecies have been averted through various interventions by smaller or bigger groups of people or through some other influences. To demonstrate the fact that Billy Meier and the extraterrestrials are really capable to foretell future events, I will present two examples. During the 150th contact of October 10, 1981, in a very long conversation between Billy and Quetzal, the two men were speaking about many predictions, among them the approaching red meteor on its collision course with Earth. If terrestrial mankind will not organize and effectuate sensible countermeasures, or if not through some planetary influences, the course of this meteor of about 350 meters diameter is somewhat diverted or averted, the result will bring enormous devastation when the crust of the Earth will be split from the North Sea down to the Black Sea. This is an artist's impression of the asteroid, how it could look like here, flying through space. And this red meteor, Billy and Pta were speaking about in October 10, 1981. And it was detected by terrestrial scientists, this object, 23 years later by Tucker, Tolan, and Bernardi in 2004. In his book Prophetien und Voraussagen, this was the contact 150, and the copyright, the book was published in 1996. That's 8 years before it was detected by terrestrial scientists. My second example concerns the Kuiper Belt. The Kuiper Belt here between Neptune and Pluto. The theory of its existence had been postulated in 1980 by Ángel Fernández and in 1988 confirmed in a computer simulation by Scott Tremaine, who also coined the belt as Kuiper Belt, named after Dutch-American astronomer Gerald Kuiper. But 5 years earlier, in July 1975, Pta had said, the other belt, having been addressed by you, actually is still unknown and will be detected in coming time, and it will be called Kuiper Belt. It's a different, written a little bit different, but sounding really nearly identical, of course, and he's speaking about the same belt here, and there will also coming, of course, meteors and comets also from the Oort cloud. Although Billy had written the term a little bit different in 1975, AI instead of UI, phonetically it sounded almost identical. There's no doubt that was referring to the Kuiper belt. For anyone who's interested in prophecies and predictions, I recommend Michael Horn's video and Did They Listen? There is a whole list of predictions and prophecies. Yes. After having mentioned now 2 predictions that turned out to be true, I'll continue with a few predictions that will occur with 100% certainty in the foreseeable future. However, it is not my intention, take note, to stir fear and panic, but just once more to warn the people who live in those areas so they may start necessary precautionary measures in order to fulfill the obligation for the protection of their own life, just as that of their family and others. What also has to be clear is that these events or catastrophes will occur during the lifetime of many of those human beings who are already alive. It's already known, San Francisco will be totally destroyed, and the region down to Los Angeles and San Diego will also be heavily affected. In 1977, in this magazine here, about the San Andreas Fault, an artist painted over a photo of San Francisco painted over this photo, and here you see an example of how the situation could or would look like after this devastating earthquake happening there. And during his jump into the future with Quetzal's ship, Billy Meier had the occasion to shoot photos of the devastation. Wendell Stevens had the chance to view Billy's photos of the destruction of San Francisco. Before these photos were confiscated by Quetzal, he wrote about his findings and he studied these photos, and I did see smaller cars smoothly around the corners and no external projections, meaning no rear mirrors, and some of these had half glass and others full glass cabin tops, making them look more like bugs than boxy cars. And we know that remote automatic driven cars are coming with 5G, and so it could very well be, when these are frequently in use, the time is near for this heavy devastation. However, the destruction of San Francisco will not be the only heavy devastation on the North American West Coast. Here, what Ptah said during the 392nd contact. Here, there will be a sea quake not far off the American coast, from Portland, south of California, all the way up to Washington in the north. A gigantic fault of several hundred kilometers, and a sea quake 9 on the Richter scale. That's heavy. And that tsunami will spread out, and the sea quake 5 minutes long. It will shake. 5 minutes, that's a very long time. And then followed by other and milder quakes. In this respect, I already told about this, I think, in a forum presentation in the New Yorker. There was a very interesting article, very long article by Catherine Schulz, which provoked a lot or raised a lot of response. And she then had to write a follow article, how to stay safe when the big one comes, also to be found if you are looking for this, or Catherine Schulz, you will find this on the New Yorker website. It's what you will learn is that America is less prepared to earthquakes than, for instance, Japan. Japan is far more advanced in their earthquake protection countermeasures. And here you see an interesting information by Henoch. That's a prophet proclaimer who lived 11,000 years ago in sentence 217. Far in the west it will be different, meaning the United States. The United States of America will be a country of total destruction, and this is already 11,000 years ago. This Henoch has foreseen these coming events here. But of course, not only the American continent will be affected. In the year 2002, research scientists detected beneath the surface of the Mediterranean Sea the biggest volcano in Europe, Mount Marsili. That's here. This is Sicily here, Italy, Switzerland up here, former Yugoslavia here, Sardinia and Corsica. In the Mount Marsili, Mediterranean Sea to the north of Sicily in Italy. When this very high and steep slope volcano will break out, or a part of it will break down, a huge tsunami must be expected. The development process towards that catastrophe has already started a couple of years ago, and the recent strong eruption here of Stromboli should be heeded as a broad wink. But of course, the other side of the globe will also be affected. For example, when Auckland in New Zealand will be blown up, as Billy said. And the information, because Auckland is built on a very active volcanic zone, and this will, blowing up means there will be some fire there, become visible. And the information from the contact reports that Tokyo is equally vulnerable as San Francisco is nothing to treat lightly. I will close this chapter by pointing out that since it is possible to foresee what will occur in the future, the possibility to travel into the future cannot be denied. And if time travel into the future is possible, then also traveling into the past or being visited by visitors from the future is equally possible. This, however, does not mean that everything we do is predetermined and our fate is already set in tablets of stone. But that's something other to go into details in another presentation. I come to the last chapter here, the man himself. In chapter 5, I've mentioned that by reading all contact reports, you may get a clear impression about the personalities and the character, especially of those persons who are frequent conversation partners to Billy, as for instance, Semyase, or Tahir, Quetzal, Florena, Dalida, and so forth, and Eliana. But above all, you may get a clear picture or impression of Billy's mode of thinking, modesty, discipline, character, intelligence, and persistence. And if you would have the chance, as I do for over 30 years, to work closely with Billy in all kinds of situations and in everyday life circumstances, thereby observing an identical overall behavior on his side compared to what's conveyed in the contact reports, then you know this man is authentic. He's no imposter, no deceiver, no manipulator, no guru, and no cult leader. He's leading a simple, secluded life is working 7 days a week and the entire 365 days of the year, with the exception of times when he is ill or has to undergo treatment in a hospital. Of course, he's a strong personality, always available to give good counsel, and he is treating all group members without any favoritism, and he's rigorously taking care that the free will of each group member is respected at all times and in every situation. Actually, he's a role model for me and also for others, especially through witnessing how he's living the following 7 principles from the spiritual teaching, namely modesty, anti-materialism. He has not 10 Rolls-Royce in his garage like others had. Perseverance, patience, repeating everything again, explaining all the time, peace, universal love, and understanding. However, this does not mean that he's a Superman, because actually he's a human being like you and I, and of equal value as all other human beings in the entire universe. Of course, he has extraordinary mental abilities which are necessary to fulfill his task as a teacher of the spiritual teaching, because this is actually his main task, the purpose in his life, being a teacher of the spiritual teaching, and he dislikes any attempts by anybody to put him above any other human beings, and he also dislikes to be treated like an animal in a zoo. He doesn't like visitors coming in, posing for photos and saying then, oh, I've met Billy and something. He doesn't want to be someone extraordinary. Anyone who could witness the situation where Billy had to raise his voice to reprimand an unjust behavior, or when he is addressing the foul, evil, and warmongering machinations in politics, economics, religion, sectarianism, and society in general with harsh but true words, will surely lose any tendencies of idealization. He can become really loud and then he's scolding at the person, criticizing behavior. 2 seconds later, he's returning and speaks calmly with another person. So he has control usually about his any emotions. And a special proof for Billy's firm dedication and his self-chosen mission is the fact that despite the so far 23 assassination attempts on his life, 23 so far, he continues with his mission undeterred. Any one of the many self-appointed fake contactees to extraterrestrials would have immediately stopped their delusional or cheating activities if had to experience an assassination attempt. And it may be worthwhile to ponder the fact that not any of the numerous cheaters in the ufological and esoteric circle has to fear an assassination attempt. This in stark contrast to Billy, who is telling the truth and disseminating his opinion about the atrocious conditions with harsh words of truth. Here you see a couple of after being shot at proof evidence here. He was sitting with Wendell Stevens in front of the house, when certainly he had a pain in his back. He moved his head, and between Wendell and Billy, the shot where he just had been a fraction of a second before, that the shot here hit the wall, and this was the projectile here. And here he had dreamed an attempt three times before. A warning dream, and then he put this metal plate behind his book here, agenda. Yeah. And here a tree where he felt the projectile, felt a swish before his head. These were several. Huh? I'm coming to the closing statement here. All the information from the 7 chapters, which I listed and explained as evidence to prove that the Billy Meier case is authentic and true, is just of minor importance. The fundamental, decisive, and irrefutable proof that tops all other arguments is the incomparable body of knowledge and wisdom in his books. Everybody with an open mind can apply the essence of what has been read in one's own life and prove to oneself its truth and reality. And the fact that the spiritual teaching is based 100% on reality is proof of its timeless validity. This quite contrary to any religion or ideology which are based on belief and therefore will vanish sooner or later because they will be proven as untrue and contradictory to reality. However, Billy's books continue to be effective, valuable, and in use as long as human beings exist in our universe. And it is FIGU's main purpose to ensure that the teaching is made available and preserved in unaltered form for the coming time. And this, my presentation of today, is a tiny contribution towards this venerable objective. I will close my presentation by using Joe Tisk's words at the end of his article. Of course, none of this will ever be enough for the die-hard skeptics, as once people take a side stance, as they often do with politics and religion, literally nothing will change their position, no matter how strong the evidence that is presented. I will end by saying, I did not write this article with the intention it would change even a single skeptic, because I know I won't, or it won't. The article was simply written for those with an open mind, reasonable intelligence, and a desire for the truth. That's it.